Overdrive. Today we drive the all-new MG Windsor. Check out Triumph's budget-friendly 400cc motorcycle and the new Tata Curvv. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Soini Dutt. On the face of it, the MG Windsor isn't to everyone's taste, but it's not the looks that will take you to the MG dealership. In fact, it has stacked in a lot of interesting features and the pricing won't have you digging too deep into your pockets. But then again, all that glitters isn't gold, and this MG Windsor comes with a catch. Here's Kenneth telling you all about it.
MG Motors has a knack for offering cars that have a first-in-segment tag to it, be it the Hector, the Gloucester, or the quirky little Comet for that matter of fact. This year is the latest addition to that portfolio, and it offers something very different from what we've seen before.
Meet the new MG Windsor EV. Better known as the Wuling Cloud EV in other Southeast Asian markets, MG Motors has brought this new energy vehicle to the Indian markets, and it says that it will disrupt the entire competition at this price point with one very key offering, and that is its battery pack. So just like the Comet, you don't get a very big bonnet up front, and you get this LED DRL up here, and the actual headlamp housing is in the lower bumper. Now moving over to the rear, you get quite a decent view with this light bar flowing across and Windsor written in bold to remind you that this car is just as royal as the Windsor Castle in England. Now let's talk about this battery pack. Now there's just one 38 kilowatt-hour battery pack on offer, and MG claims it has a range of about 331 kilometers. But there's a catch. Now while you can buy this car for a relatively affordable price of 9.99 lakh rupees ex-showroom, you will only be able to rent the battery pack. You will be paying MG Motors 3.5 rupees for every kilometer that you drive, and this is part of MG's new subscription-based model. Let's talk about the boot space as well. Now you get a pretty nice boot space, relatively large. It's about 604 liters, and that includes this under storage as well, because you don't get a spare tire here. Now if that's still not good enough for you, you can still fold down those 60-40 split rear seats for more space. Now let's get on the inside. So immediately the first thing that you notice when you get inside is that there is no push button anywhere. All you have to do is fasten your seat belt. That disengages the electronic handbrake, tap the brake, go into drive, and tap the accelerator, and that's how you get going. So that front-mounted electric motor in the Windsor EV produces a mere 136 PS and 200 Newton meters of torque. So heading into it, we did not expect too much on the performance front at all. The accelerator pedal isn't quite sensitive, so you would have to tap it a little harder than you would as compared to any other EVs that you have driven. Now in terms of that performance, there isn't much in the lower end, so you would have to get slightly into the higher speeds to feel more of that 200 Newton meters. Now in terms of visibility, this massive glass house is brilliant in that aspect. The A-pillar isn't too big, the windscreen is massive, and along with these huge windows, they're all quite a sight to take in. Now this instrument cluster is actually quite tiny. I say tiny because it's even smaller than the one you get in the Comet EV. And while it does show more than enough information, my only issue with it is the charge percentage. MG does this with all their EVs, where the battery percentage is a small graphic in the corner of the screen when I actually want it to be a little more visible. Now the MG Windsor EV is marketed as a business class CUV, and the ride quality does hold up to that status. Getting over potholes, it does it quite easily. There aren't too many jitters that go around the cabin, and even taking on speed breakers for that matter of fact, the car doesn't hesitate in any aspect. You kind of get the idea why it's called the Cloud EV in other countries. It feels just as soft. Now we've not been the biggest fan of the Hector's slightly bouncy ride quality on the highways, but in the Windsor it's actually not that bad. Yes, you do hear a little bit of the road noise, but I don't think that's something we would hold up against it.
The Windsor handles pretty well too. It's no sports car, but keeping its shape in mind, it does a good job. Something that surprised me was the very minimal amount of body roll. The car stays planted on the ground provided you're moving at moderate speeds. Go faster and you will most definitely see yourself off the road.
Now you may have noticed that I haven't spoken about the Windsor EV's rear seats at all. Now like I told you, the Windsor EV is marketed as a business class CUV. Now, business class is supposed to cater to people who are slightly above average height as well. Now, while I am almost 6 foot tall, we thought of getting somebody taller.
Thanks, Ken. After a really long time, I'm thinking of agreeing with a marketing tagline any manufacturer has given, and MG is calling this a business class kind of seat, and this actually feels like that because look at the knee room. I'm almost 6'3". The kind of leg space I get is really good in this segment, and then the floor is totally flat. The cushioning is pretty firm. This feels like a very soft, comfortable couch, but this is still firm, and I think for long distance travel this would give you a comfortable ride quality. Then the trump card of this seating is the kind of recline I'm getting, almost 135 degrees of recline, and this is how you can chill or just rest on a long journey.
So what's our final take on the Windsor EV? We think for the price, it's a big deal. It might end up competing with cars like the Nexon EV and XUV 400, but it offers space and quality of a car in a segment higher. It's only the battery part that keeps us on the edge, because ownership here does not mean full ownership. The subscription-based system is a bit too complex to understand, but if you're willing to overlook that aspect, then we think you've met your match.
Well, MG Motors is also offering the battery rental option for the MG Comet as well as the ZS EV. So is that an option that you would be open to considering? Let us know in the comment section on our YouTube channel. We'll take a very quick break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we'll get you acquainted with Triumph Speed 400 T4 motorcycles. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back, you're with us on Overdrive. Now, we recently rode Triumph's new Speed 400 T4 motorcycle, which is budget friendly and aims at wooing new customers. But does it come at the cost of the brand's premium appeal? Let's find out.
This, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't need an introduction. This is the Triumph Speed 400. You probably already know this motorcycle. What you probably don't remember anymore is the splash it made with the pricing upon launch. It got everyone thinking, it made everyone sit up and take notice. But of course, that was introductory pricing. Over the few months, the price has gone up. So Triumph has now introduced this, the Speed 400 T4. It's a cheaper variant based on the Speed 400. In fact, Bajaj insists it's a completely different motorcycle. So we are here to find out how it actually performs. So let's address the elephant in the room. Why was this variant even needed? Was it the Royal Enfield Hunter and Guerrilla effect, or is Triumph India just trying to cast a wider net? I think it's a bit of both. You see, the Hunter and the Guerrilla have been raking in a lot of numbers with their roadster charm. And then you have bikes like the Bajaj Pulsar NS400Z, which are offering a tempting price tag with a lot of bang for the buck. So Triumph India obviously needed to respond. They saw that there are gaps in this market that they could fill with the T4. So it is essentially aimed at those who want the big T badge without the hefty price tag.
It uses the same bore and stroke as the Speed 400 we know of already, but has a 9 PS lower power output and marginally lesser torque, which is achieved by playing with the cams, the crank and the software. It also idles at a slightly lower 1200 RPM and has a distinct sound at standstill.
Let's spot the differences. You will see a more satin finished exhaust on this one, that's an all black. Triumph has also changed the gearing. Now the standard Speed 400 comes with a 43-tooth rear sprocket, whereas the T4 gets a 39-tooth rear sprocket. Now usually a smaller rear sprocket also translates to better top speed, but with the drop in power, with the changes in engine and all of that, what you're getting is a top speed of about 135 kilometers an hour. Because you see, in the Indian conditions, usually 120 to 130 is a decent cruising speed, so to say. And again, because it's squarely aimed at Royal Enfield, 120, 130 is usually the zone Royal Enfields aren't very comfortable in. So they want to make sure that the Speed T4 still feels comfortable at that speed. But I believe 100 to 120 is still the ideal cruising speed for the new T4.
That said, cruising at 100 to 120 km an hour in top gear puts the engine in the 5 to 6000 RPM zone. And the engine does feel a bit buzzy in that rev zone, especially in the pegs. But there is no dearth of power, and a quick twist of the wrist not only helps build speeds quickly towards the 135 km an hour top back, but also reveals a meaty torque spread perfect for the city and highway use. If the T4 is bought solely by casual riders, as Bajaj expects, they will not even feel the 10 PS power deficit thanks to the strong mid-range torque.
If you recall the 400cc single-cylinder comparison that we did recently, you might remember me saying that the brakes on the Speed 400 feel a bit spongy despite the sintered brake pads. And now the feel is even spongier with the T4 because one, it goes with high mu organic calipers. So organic calipers are common across many single-cylinder entry-level performance motorcycles that you see. But this one is using a high mu organic pad, so that has higher levels of friction, but still feels a bit spongy, just the way the standard Speed 400 does. Also, it gets actually mounted calipers versus the radial mounting that you see here, because you see you get upside down forks on this. This has standard forks, so as a package, you have to go ahead with actual mounted calipers. The diameter for the disc, however, stays the same. The wheels on both the bikes are also going to be similar. What's going to be different is the choice of rubber. Now, speaking of choices, from 2025, the standard Speed 400 will also give you the option of Vredestein tires, which hopefully should be even grippier than the Apollos that we already like. However, for the T4, the only option that you'll get, at least as of now, is going to be the MRFs. Now, we have sampled these tires in the past on other motorcycles, and it's a pretty decent set, and it will do most of the stuff that the Speed 400 is going to do. Of course, at higher leans on the edge, the Speed 400 is going to be better, and that's going to be more than just the tires, it's also the suspension coming into play and all of that. But like I said, most of the stuff that the Speed 400 will achieve, the T4 will do that as well. One advantage, however, of these MRF tires is that the profile is slightly taller. That also gives it better ground clearance, makes it better equipped to take on the slightly poor road conditions that you're going to encounter every day.
But on poor road conditions, the suspension does show its basic nature. The USDs on the standard Speed 400 feel far superior, not only for bump absorption but also for handling. The T4 feels more like a standard street bike in comparison and loses a bit of that premium feel. It has a better seat though, with a roundish profile that is not only more comfortable but also makes gripping the tank a bit easier. And if you already own a Speed 400, this seat could be a good swap for you. But if you are in the market for a new Speed 400, I would rather stretch the EMI by a little bit and get the full-fat version instead than the T4. While the T4 does most of the things that the standard Speed 400 does, it simply lacks the classy feel and poise in my books. But in this segment, price rules the roost.
So let's sum it up. I think the T4 in itself is a fairly good motorcycle. It will do most of the things that the standard Speed 400 might do, and then some. And I think from that point of view, the Speed 400 should definitely feel a bit threatened. I won't be surprised if it doesn't garner too many numbers with the inclusion of this in the portfolio now.
Well, it's time to head into our final break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we'll tell you all about the new Tata Curvv ICE variant. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. The Tata Curvv boasts of a plethora of new features, is available in 6 color options and 8 variants. But what's more interesting is Tata's new 1.2 litre TGDI engine option. Here's Kranti Sambhav with all the details.
Hi, I'm Kranti Sambhav. You're watching Overdrive, and this is the latest Tata Curvv. I know you've already seen this car, you've seen the launch, you've seen our drive review as well, but that was the Tata Curvv EV version, and you can easily spot 2-3 differences on the exterior. One is obviously the front grille, which is more of a closed-off kind of setup in the EV, but the bumper and the front grille looks different. On the ICE version, you have different looking alloys as well. So basically, Tata Curvv ICE has three engine options. One is 1.2 Revtron, then you have a diesel one, and then the new Hyperion one. So before we start talking about the drive and the features of this car, let's talk about the prices and the technical specifications of all these three versions. Now, since I haven't driven the EV version of this Curvv, so everything looks new to me. This whole setup is new, but just like the exterior, you have lots of piano black finish on the interior as well. Door panel has this piano black finish. Then you have this steering wheel panel, which basically has Tata Motors logo when you start it. Similarly, this center panel also has lots of piano black. Then you have this 10.25-inch infotainment screen, which looks obviously modern, because a couple of models back, if you remember, rest of the Tata cars were very modern and nice looking, but some of the screens used to look dated. Not anymore. So this not only looks good, but the response is also nice, and you have lots of features, including wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. Then you have lots of the embedded apps as well. One more improvement is this key fob, which looks very sleek and premium now. Then you have ventilated seats. The button for the ventilated seat is on the right, and this driver's seat is basically powered, not the passenger seat. And how can I forget? A big sunroof. So the moment of truth, guys, and sloping roof with 6 feet 3 inch presenter. What kind of setup are we looking at? So this is not very comfortable for me, not comfortable at all for a passenger who is this height, but for average Indian height passengers, I think this would be kind of just okay. Knee room could have been a bit better. Thigh support is good. Overall feel is robust and nice cushioning. The armrest could have been a bit more robust. And what else do you get? So you have this AC vent or a blower, and you have a Type-C charging port and Type-A charging port. So overall, second row is okay for average Indian height passengers, two passengers. This space looks like okay for them, but this is the story of second row, and I think that sloping roof fear which I had, that has come true. And this could be a good surprise package for Curvv customers, because in this segment you get gesture controlled power tailgate, and it's very consistent. Every time I've tried this, it has opened. And then the space, 500 liters of space, which is good enough, more than what you need for any typical weekend trip or those long weekend trips we keep planning. So before we start driving this Curvv petrol version, let's talk about the highlight of this one. This is fitted with the Hyperion engine, which is the latest direct injection turbocharged engine. This produces around 123 PS, and if we compare this with the Revtron one, then power difference is not that huge. But the major difference, or the main difference, is the kind of torque this produces. This produces almost 50 Newton meters or 55 Newton meters more than the Revtron one. So let's see how that translates on the road. The ride quality I really liked. The suspension setup is not very rigid, not very soft. So overall, this helps in the handling part. Also on a bit faster bends or curves, this handled really well. This gave very confident kind of feedback. So that feel was nice. And on small bumps and potholes, this did transfer some of the sounds, but not the undulation. So that way's ride quality, I think, is sorted. It is very balanced. If you talk about the diesel version, which I'm driving, the star of this package obviously is the CT, dual clutch transmission. Very seamless, the way it changes and the way it is behaving with the engine. Gives a very balanced kind of power delivery. There's one more element which is kind of common in both the cars. That was NVH level. I think Tata Motors engineers should work on that a bit extra, because both the engines are powerful, torquey, and you want to push it. And the moment you push it hard or some sudden acceleration, at that time you feel that the NVH level could be a bit better. So that becomes a bit noisy. And in case you're driving alone or you're not listening to any music, then that could become a bit irritating on the long drives. But yeah. The Curvv seems to be a great package with decent drive performance, composed ride quality, and the tech pack which is on offer. Hyperion engine is capable of exciting the enthusiast in you. Dual clutch setup in diesel is a big testament to the fact how Tata Motors have approached this vehicle. Except for the second row space, which is a big priority for the customers in this segment, Curvv ticks most of the boxes. But the challenge is the context. The hottest segment of the Indian car industry, with so many capable products offering almost everything the modern car industry has in the catalogue, is a hard nut to crack. Curvv, for that matter, doesn't seem to be coming in a Creta killer mood. With 3 ICE engine options, an EV version, and a probable CNG option, Curvv seems to be attacking in a unique formation. As we know, strikers make the headlines, but midfielders control the game.
Well, we've run out of time on this week's episode of Overdrive, but remember, you can stay in touch with the team through our various social media platforms, and you can write to us on YouTube as well. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye. Many thanks for watching. Drive and ride safe.